All right, Nadia.
Hi, bonjour, quickly. From the question where I am from, I'm from the sea, 12-hour North Montreal and Quebec. I'm Franglish, how you can hear. Coming from a little village of 200 persons. And to see my story, I would say that one moment I get frustrated to not understand who was they. Because it seems that my village thought that there were a they. They decide for us. They construct politics. They know what's good for us. And they draw our own future instead of us doing it. So when I grew up, I built Exeko. So now, for the second question, what I'm doing, I build Exeko organization that fights against three kinds of exclusion. And in fact, we're fighting to recognize three kinds of exclusion instead of one. Social exclusion, cultural exclusion, and intellectual exclusion. The goal is to deep down the more we can in the different social issues and to see how can we work with the famous acupuncture point, you know, where you can work from one point and the impact is spread out the more largely we can. So finally, how we do it, it's through social inclusion and intellectual emancipation. Intellectual emancipation, it took years for me to understand what it is, and finally, it's thinking freely without the they. I am dare to think without the dare. And how do we do it? Through different tools, critical thinking, social analysis, citizenship action. And we finally end up with, well, that's great. There's a good news in that. There's some discipline that only do that, understand how we can think and act freely without any person daring to act instead of us. And that's philosophy. Now, how can we talk to philosophers and bring them along in social innovation path? And there's the second one, who is artist. Who does not critical thinking, well, they do, but they're specialized in creative thinking. So basically, to have a free thinking, we think it needs the two. Logical thinking, sorry, the microphone. Logical thinking and creative thinking. Logical thinking bring you to have the tools of ordering your thought in a good dimension. And creative thinking is giving you the tools of seeing the world outside of what you know of that world. Being able to imagine yourself outside of what is already known. So we use the two of them and create now over 250 projects from that single thought. We're known for different kind of projects. We do in and out First Nation communities work through philosophy and art and critical thinking, like intellectual judo. We do courses of intellectual auto-defense, you know, being able to understand the different meaning of the world to be able to act in it. It ends up with just two little examples. We have a philosophic and cultural caravan for First Nation homeless in Montreal that runs everyday basis and that are linked with our networks of 12 different libraries for accessibilities of knowledge in the shelters, in the day centers, that are linked with intellectual auto-defense courses in the shelters too. And each one of our different programs are linked like this. So we'll speak about the challenge right after.
You talked about cultural, intellectual, and social exclusion. You just heard Jeff say that the Children's Helpline primarily is an exclusionary system for some First Nations Métis kids. How do you apply the principles of social innovation to honor social, intellectual, and cultural inclusion so that you can include?
Good question. Well, I'm one of your co-worker in management of challenge. In the beginning, I thought my first challenge was to make people understand why we were doing what we were doing. And then we did understand that we were just not speaking the same language. And from that thought, we were going along to a new learning session about translation. And it's all about translation. And our biggest challenge was the in-between. We're in between sectors, in between culture, in between ages, in between genders, in between. We're always in betweens. And it means that it needs always a translation. And everything is about acknowledgement, inter-reconnaissance for the only maybe one person that speaks French here. It's a really nice word that means everything. Inter-reconnaissance, inter-acknowledgement. How can we build a society that accepts to not speak the same language, that accepts to be always in the situation where you're in that mode of understanding and translating and accepting its difference? And can you... there's a principle that conducts, it's an ethical quote that conducts everything we're doing in Exeko that was made to address the same challenge we were having. There we are. That we were having on the ground with our program, but also conducting everything. Our relation, our partnership relation, how we need to address government for change of politics, every situation. And for us, we do files of in art, it's presumption of equality of intelligence. And we were targeting this ethical quote like being the source. In fact, the opposite would be the source of our issue. The presumption of inequality of intelligence, if we're honest, is probably what is building our relation right now between everything, between different people, between culture, between... So if we're targeting the opposite, maybe we will get somewhere. So we build training on that. How can we conduct presumption of equality of intelligence? We're not saying we're equal of intelligence. In fact, we don't really care. It would be a lack of, it will be, we'll spare times of trying to prove that we're equal. But when you're presuming that you're equal to others, you don't have the same conversation at all. So with this in mind, we built and we were partners of the new politics on discrimination and racism done for First Nation and non-First Nation relation in Quebec. And one of our recommendations was every members of our government needs to have that training. Like, let's put it in an obligation to understand where you put the reset button to be at for any relation with difference. And that's what we're doing. We're management of difference. And you're doing the same thing. The other big issues that we're facing is we're targeting systemic change. If we do so, at one moment we were like, okay, for the last 10 years we're doing project on one side. We're doing project on the ground. What are we saying by doing this? We're having our participant is in a situation of social exclusion, all of them. We're working with homeless, with people that are facing mental health issues, all of them. But I think we were fundamentally wrong. We can't continue if we're targeting systemic change. We need to widen our angle, like large angle. So we designed what we call the theory of social transformation. You can upload it on our website. It's a huge document, but I took one slide for you. Now we're trying to bring the knowledge of which change we're targeting for which level of society. and we target 4. And that brings us to acknowledge that we were working only on 1, the level of inclusion. Sorry, dear French, I wasn't able to go in it to change it in English. So I will do like a free translation. It's the level of inclusion working directly with population in situation of social exclusion. The level of complementary is working with institution, and complementarity would be to acknowledge that we need others, because we need to be working together with all the different kind of institutions. Then there's the level of acknowledgement to work with other citizens that needs to acknowledge that we need to work together too. And the last one is the level of social of influence to work on politics level. This was our biggest challenge, is now how can we bring those knowledge to all our team, all our partners, all our collaborators, and work towards the same objective.